Revealed, the unexpected moment when a one-legged girl transformed a CEO's perspective on beauty. Tom Hargrove rushed through the revolving doors of his steel and glass skyscraper. The air buzzed with a familiar electric anxiety that injected urgency into his every step. At 45, he was hailed as the epitome of success, yet he clung to the hollow accolades like a life raft tethered to a swiftly sinking ship. Day in, day out, he sat cornered in a world that idolized superficiality, beauty, wealth, and meticulous status played out on the glossy magazine spreads and vibrant billboards he scripted as the CEO of a prominent advertising firm. But with every promotion, every new client, a gnawing emptiness sunk deeper into his chest. What truly defined beauty? The thought was a specter that haunted him in the quiet moments, a reminder of the hollowness lurking just beneath his polished exterior. Assigned the task of mentoring at a local high school, a task he approached with reluctance, he walked into a world where disinterest reigned supreme. Bland classrooms, distracted students, the scent of outdated textbooks hung in the air, contrasting sharply with the polished success likened to the sleek walls of his office. Yet, amidst the sea of apathy, he found Lily, a vibrant 16-year-old navigating life with one leg. Rather than summoning pity, she radiated an energy that ignited something deep inside him. Living modestly with her single mother, she had learned to project beauty from within, to challenge the very stereotypes that had defined him. As they embarked on a class project dissecting societal beauty standards, it was Lily's candid insights that struck a nerve within Tom. "Why do we let a few stereotypes define what we see in the mirror?" she boldly asked, eyes glinting with fierce conviction. With every word, she peeled back layers of his carefully constructed beliefs, exposing the fragility beneath. Her raw courage shook him. He felt unrealized truths bubble up, emotions churning within as he grappled with the essence of genuine beauty, a reflection of resilience and authenticity, neither of which he could honestly claim. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. His internal turmoil intensified swiftly when a regular client presentation spiraled into chaos. Criticism swelled, condemning his firm for lack of inclusivity, a rhetorical assault that left him rattled and questioning his own complicit role in perpetuating narrow definitions of beauty. The walls he'd built around his integrity felt like they were crumbling, the weight of expectation crashing down. He could feel the team's eyes on him, searching for direction, uncertainty hanging heavy in the air. In his moment of professional crisis, it was again Lily's voice that echoed in his mind, a pleading call for authenticity that tugged insistently at his conscience. Could he afford to stand at the precipice of change while bartering the future of a successful legacy built on artificial grandeur? Anguish tightened its grip, a clamorous battle between the world he'd known for decades and a new vision that felt terrifyingly correct. A question loomed larger than any creative pitch he'd ever crafted. Could one voice, a single story, uproot the deeply embedded perceptions of an entire industry? Physically anchored in his presentation room, Tom felt suspended between the walls of his career and a world beyond, facing the crux of his existence, torn between the seductive comfort of familiarity and the cold clarity of transformation. Would he dare to leap into the unknown, and what would he discover on the other side? Tom inhaled deeply, pulling himself away from the edge of self-doubt and stepping back into the chaos of the room. The conference table loomed, a polished barrier separating his momentary paralysis from the eyes of his team, a mix of expectation and concern. As silence enveloped the room, he recognized it was time to confront the discomfort that had erupted during the meeting. Ignoring the resentment that smoldered beneath the surface, he finally spoke. "You're right. We're not doing enough." His voice shook slightly, betraying the internal storm surging within him. Yet, with each word, he felt a profound shift in the atmosphere. "We're not acknowledging the beautiful diversity that exists in our society. We need to do better." His team shifted, the tension coiling tighter as they collectively processed his words. The acknowledgement wasn't merely an apology, it was the beginning of a commitment. A flicker of hope ignited in Tom's chest, combating the anxiety that had dictated his decisions for years. They needed to evolve not to fulfill the demands of a fleeting trend but to create a narrative of inclusivity that resonated with authenticity. As the meeting progressed, Tom recalled the moments spent with Lily, her spirit unfurling against the backdrop of unyielding societal expectations. She had seen beauty where others perceived flaws, embodied resilience like an art form. The impact of her candid perspective settled deep within him, charging his thoughts with clarity. What if they could infuse their advertising campaigns with stories like hers? Returning to his office, Tom could hardly focus on the spreadsheets and projections sprawled across his desk. Instead, his mind drifted back to the painful authenticity of Lily's reflection. Her power transcended physical limitations. It was a lesson he had long overlooked in his pursuit of aesthetic perfection. Suddenly, a surge of determination sliced through his disorientation. What if he initiated a new campaign that spotlighted authentic stories of beauty? He envisioned placing real, diverse faces in front of the camera, each narrative more powerful than the last. He could transform the company's narrative, a declaration of liberation from conventional standards, a rejection of passive beauty and an invitation to engage with genuine stories. But a flicker of doubt crept in. What if they faced backlash? What if the industry labeled his approach as a misguided attempt to chase relevance? The fear of failure charged his instincts, an instinct to bend back toward the status quo. Yet the very essence of failure felt less threatening than the thought of perpetuating a distorted ideal. Moved by a wave of inspiration, he began to draft concepts late into the night, ideas spewing forth in frantic abandon. Each concept was infused with the raw emotion, honesty, and vulnerability he had witnessed in Lily. But as dawn neared, a nagging feeling surfaced, a weight of responsibility tied to the stories he wished to amplify. Could he handle the repercussions of change? Would these narratives eclipse his own identity forged in a world of composites and glamorized perfection? In that moment, the urgency for personal authenticity battled fiercely with his professional identity. The unease lingered as he lay down for a brief respite, the burden of self-reflection blending with the excitement of potential. It was clear, he needed to confront Lily again. Their partnership might just spark the transformation he craved, not just for his work, but for the life he wanted to reclaim. Would he have the courage to reach out to her, or would fear hold him back from crafting a compelling narrative that could challenge the industry and, perhaps, his very existence? The first rays of dawn stretched through the window, casting a warm glow across Tom's cluttered desk. He lay in a restless sleep, his thoughts tangled between ambition and the looming specter of self-doubt. As he jolted awake, he felt an urgent pressure, the need to act. He couldn't ignore the profound shift ignited within him. Every ounce of his being pushed him toward exploring the uncharted territory ahead. He sat on the edge of his bed, gripping the edge of the mattress as he pondered the looming question of reaching out to Lily. Their last encounter felt unfinished, as if the universe itself had set the stage for a story yet to unfold. Would she recognize his evolution? Could she understand that he no longer sought to dictate stories of beauty but wanted to co-create them with someone who lived them? Driven by an inexplicable force, Tom navigated his morning routine with renewed intensity. The breakfast he usually devoured felt like a formality, simple sustenance overshadowed by his restless anticipation. He could already envision their conversation, the possibilities radiating like ripples across an expansive lake. But as he zipped his jacket, apprehension tightened its grip. What if Lily considered his outreach insincere? With purposeful strides, he arrived at the office, the weight of his ambition replaced with a vigor that pulsated through his veins. He powered up his computer, fingers hesitant above the keyboard, a cacophony of thoughts colliding in his mind. Emails and deadlines loomed, yet each notification faded into insignificance against his determination. He was drawn to a tab labeled Contacts, holding the potential catalyst he needed, the one person who could lend authenticity to his vision. Summoning his courage, he typed a message, almost a desperate plea for collaboration. Lily, I've been thinking about our last conversation. I believe it's time for us to explore a partnership sharing real stories of authentic beauty together. The cursor blinked menacingly, the digital silence amplifying his anxiety. He hesitated, hovering over the send button. The fear of rejection washed over him. He grappled with the idea that Lily might have moved on, that the fire that once burned between them had dimmed. But was he prepared to lose the opportunity to transform his vision? He exhaled slowly, fingers trembling as he finally pressed send. With that single action, Tom felt a weight lift, liberation mingled with dread. Now, all he could do was wait. Hours melted away as Tom immersed himself in the surrounding chaos of work, but the anticipation gnawed at him like a persistent itch. When the notification finally chimed, his heart raced. He opened Lily's reply, the air thick with possibility. "Yes, let us meet. I've missed our talks." Elation surged within him, but it quickly morphed into another layer of anxiety. Meeting Lily meant baring his vulnerable self, baring truths he had long hidden. The thought of entering territory marked by the genuine authenticity she embodied filled him with both excitement and trepidation. As evening approached, Tom meticulously planned for their rendezvous. The cafe was a modest one, designed for intimate conversations with its soft lighting and eclectic decor. He chose it purposely, aiming for an atmosphere conducive to honest dialogue. But as he stared into the mirror, adjusting his collar in preparation, doubt crept in again. Was he ready to confront the version of himself that had thrived in superficiality? Steeling himself, he left the apartment, anticipation battling insecurity with every step toward the cafe. The unresolved questions raced through his mind. How would she respond to his transformation? Would she recognize the earnestness in his intentions or dismiss him as another surface-level appeal for change? With every passing block, the tension in his chest tightened. He was on the edge of an awakening, one that could potentially unravel the tightly knit threads of his identity. As the cafe's door swung open, Tom froze in the threshold. Would this meeting affirm his new path or unravel the very vision he yearned to create? No turning back now. The moment of truth arrived. Tom stepped inside the cafe, consumed by a swirl of emotions. He scanned the room, searching for Lily amidst clusters of patrons engaged in hushed conversations, their laughter punctuating the air. She was already seated at a small table by the window, her gaze fixed on a steaming cup. The sight of her, illuminated by the golden glow of the fading sun, sent a wave of reassurance through him. As he approached, Lily looked up, her smile radiating warmth that felt both familiar and foreign. For a fleeting moment, he saw the girl he once knew, tangled in dreams yet to be realized. But today, Tom was acutely aware of the weight of his transformation. He was determined to shed the skin of superficiality he'd worn for far too long. "Hey," he greeted, trying to keep his voice steady despite the thrum of uncertainty pulsing within him. The sound of her name on his lips reminded him of all she'd come to symbolize: authenticity amidst inauthenticity. "Tom." "It's been a while," she replied, her eyes sparkling with genuine delight. "How have you been?" He took a seat, the chair creaking beneath him as he sought to steady his scattered thoughts. "Different. I've been thinking a lot about our last conversation, about beauty and what it really means." He paused, assessing the impact of his words. Was he being clear enough, or merely playing into the old dynamics of their relationship? "Really?" Lily leaned in, her interest piqued. "What do you mean?" Tom was on the brink of confronting the deeper essence of their dialogue. "I've realized that my understanding of beauty was limited, tethered to curated images, devoid of authenticity. I've been trying to craft my narrative without engaging the real stories around me. It's like I've been painting with a palette of superficial colors while missing the vibrant hues that come from genuine human experiences." Lily nodded slowly, her gaze penetrating. "That's a powerful realization. But it sounds like more than just an epiphany, it's a transformative journey." He felt a surge of confidence ripple through him. This was their moment, a space to intertwine their past visions with the truths that had emerged within him. "I want to explore that journey together. I don't want to tell stories for the sake of artifice anymore. I want to capture the rawness, the imperfections, the stories that embody real beauty." As he spoke, he noticed her brow furrowing slightly, a sign that he was treading on sensitive ground. "Tom, that's an admirable aspiration, but how do you plan to bring those stories to life? Art is not just about intention, it's about execution and genuine connection." Her questions sliced through the initial excitement flaring in him. They were tough questions he hadn't fully prepared to answer. But commitment to growth demanded confrontation. I know I need to engage with real people. Share their truths, not just mine. Are you prepared to embrace their struggles? To confront the unpolished realities that might shake your artistic foundations? Tom's heart raced. He realized then that he was standing on the precipice of something larger than himself. It wasn't just about a partnership, it was about dismantling the walls he'd painstakingly constructed around his identity. Yes, I'm ready, he declared, each word a testament to his unraveling fears. But what if it changes you, Tom? She pressed, her voice soft but unyielding. Then it changes me, he said firmly, a sense of resolve coiling within him. Isn't that what growth is about? With those words, he felt the trajectory of their conversation shift. The table, once a barrier, now stood as a bridge where their intricate histories could merge into something transformative. Tom sensed that the stakes were rising. This could be an awakening or a complete unraveling. Just then, the cafe door swung open, and a flurry of fresh air rushed in, mingling with their conversation. Tom's thoughts raced. But as he looked at Lily, he knew he couldn't turn back now. Not with everything on the line. What lay ahead was uncertain. Would the chaos of truth enrich or ruin his vision? As her eyes locked onto his, he felt the ground beneath them shift once again. Would he emerge from the depths of authenticity or become consumed by it? Tom felt an unsettling mix of anticipation and dread enveloping him. With every heartbeat, he was becoming acutely aware of the different person sitting across from him, the woman who once evoked dreams turned distant memories. This conversation had shifted from a mere discussion about beauty to a confrontation with his own inadequacies. Lily had always known him in layers, now he was stripping them away, revealing a core vulnerable yet eager for growth. The cafe bustled around them, but he was attuned to the intensity of their connection. As her expression shifted to one of unwavering scrutiny, he searched for the words that would ground this fragile moment. I want to dive into stories that shake us to our cores, the ones that embody the beauty of struggle. Lily seemed captivated, yet the challenge in her eyes remained a reminder that theory without practice would lead him nowhere. Then you need to find them, Tom. But be prepared, truly engaging with others means harsh realities will seep into your soul. Are you ready for that? The weight of her question loomed over him like a storm cloud. He inhaled deeply, envisioning the path ahead filled with faces and narratives he had yet to discover. It wasn't enough to just approach this journey academically, he needed to immerse himself in the unpredictable chaos of life. Yes, he managed to reply, less certain now. I want that, though I don't know exactly where to start. Lily leaned back, contemplative. Maybe start by listening. Find someone who's living a story that defies conventional beauty. Capture that narrative in a way that resonates. Sometimes the most profound revelations come from places we overlook. Her words struck a chord. Tom realized he'd been so focused on the elements of his personal transformation he'd nearly forgotten the essence of storytelling, connection and empathy. What stories existed just outside his purview? With a determined spark flickering within, he thought of his old clients, the superficial glamour that had dominated him. I was once so focused on the glossy surface, he admitted. I have wasted time, never daring to dive deeper. But I'll be proactive. I'll seek out those lives, the unfiltered stories. The ground beneath him felt steadier with that resolve, even if it was still accompanied by trepidation. He was also acutely aware of the vulnerability it brought. Peeling back layers would expose him to judgment, fear, and the unknown. What if he wasn't ready for the complexities he might encounter? Lily's gaze softened slightly. Remember, the richness lies in truth. Embrace the imperfections as they surface. And don't be surprised if the journey shows you parts of yourself you weren't prepared to confront. It could reframe everything, including your own understanding of beauty. Tom's heart raced at the thought. What hadn't he faced? What hidden aspects of himself lay waiting to be uncovered? That question ignited an insistent itch at the back of his mind. He realized he had to confront his own ideals of beauty, shaped by societal expectations, flawed narratives, and his self-image. Do you really think I can find a story like that? He asked, searching her eyes for reassurance. Her expression was serious, almost piercing. The question isn't about if you can, it's whether you'll accept what that story reveals. And ultimately, if you'll share it authentically. The hum of the cafe faded into the background as those words sunk in. Acceptance. Was he truly prepared for the revelations that lay ahead? This was not just about other stories but about a reckoning with his own. Each new story he sought would reflect back the fragmented pieces of his own experience. As the sun dipped lower, casting a richer hue of gold through the cafe window, Tom sensed a shift in the very air around him. In this space, he was no longer just an observer, he was choosing to become part of something larger, a movement toward authenticity. Suddenly, a woman entered the cafe with a distinctive gait. She had a limp and relied on a cane. Tom felt a jolt of curiosity. She might have a story worth chasing. But the moment she approached the counter, his heart started to race anew. What was it about her presence that sparked recognition? What truths would unfold and intertwine with his persistent quest for real beauty? He turned to Lily, determination igniting in his gut. I want to ask her, he said, almost impulsively. As he stood, ready to take action, doubt crept in. Was he truly prepared to hear the depths of her story and what would it reveal in him? With each step he took toward the woman, a wave of uncertainty washed over him, binding excitement and fear together. The story he sought was closer than he realized, but would he have the courage to embrace everything it might unveil? As Tom approached the woman, the clack of her cane resonated in his ears like a metronome, counting down the seconds until he closed the gap between them. The lively atmosphere of the cafe faded into a dull murmur, his focus narrowing onto her. Each step felt deliberate, yet his heart raced with an urgency he didn't fully understand. What was he hoping to find? Approval? Excitement? Or perhaps validation of his newfound resolve to explore the authentic stories that lay hidden beneath the surface? Excuse me, he began, his voice steadier than he felt. The woman turned to face him, her eyes bright despite the fatigue etched into her features. I couldn't help but notice your presence. You seem like someone with a compelling story. She tilted her head slightly, assessing him through narrowed eyes. Everyone has a story, she replied, her tone measured. But few are willing to listen. A realization hit him like a splash of cold water. There it was, the call to action that Lily had implored him to embrace. This was not simply about asking questions, it was about inviting someone to share their truth, and offering the stamina to endure the complexities that might arise. I'm Tom, he introduced himself, extending a hand that trembled just slightly. I'm on a journey to uncover authentic stories, to understand how different expressions of beauty inform our lives. Her gaze softened, perhaps recognizing the sincerity embedded within his words. And why do you think my story matters? The directness of her question struck a chord. What made her story more valuable than another? Because I believe every story has the power to transform perspectives, he replied, wrestling with the truth of his own motivations. Including my own. A moment of silence passed, heavy with the weight of shared vulnerability. I'm Zoe, she finally said, shaking his hand. The handshake was firm, grounded. What do you want to know? Tom hesitated, aware that this conversation was the catalyst for all he had yearned to explore. How do you find beauty in your life? Zoe chuckled softly, the sound both melodic and tinged with sadness. Beauty? It's all about acceptance. I can't hide the reality of my physical limitations, but I can choose how to perceive them. My limp is a part of me, not the entirety. As she spoke, Tom absorbed every word, captivated. She was exuding strength in a way he hadn't anticipated, a different kind of beauty that wasn't diminished by societal norms. What's one misconception people have about you? He asked, steeling himself for whatever truth she might reveal. That I'm broken, she said without missing a beat, her voice resolute. People see me and only notice the cane. They don't see the stories of survival, resilience, and laughter that come with it. Her words felt like a mirror reflecting back Tom's own insecurities. He had often felt broken by the expectations he placed upon himself and his ideas of beauty. How do you deal with that perception? He inquired, genuinely intrigued. By understanding that beauty can take many forms, Zoe said, her eyes locking onto his. I surround myself with those who appreciate the diverse tapestry of life, the good, the bad, and everything in between. Tom's heart began to race again, but this time it was for a different reason, realization. Her approach was not about rejection, but about complete and radical acceptance of who she was. This was a perspective he desperately needed to anchor himself within. I never thought about it that way, he said, the truth hitting hard. Beneath his initial desire to explore beauty, there was an underlying urge to reconcile his own imperfections. I want to show the world that beauty is more than skin deep, but I fear I've only scratched the surface. Zoe smiled, a look of knowing embedded in her expression. Then you're on the right path, but remember, it's about action. The pursuit itself is as beautiful as the stories. Her message resonated within him, igniting a spark. The lamp of his realization was creating shadows of doubt and self-critique, but with each story, he acted as a conduit to a broader understanding of beauty. Thank you for sharing with me, Zoe, he said, feeling a surge of gratitude. I hope you don't mind if I follow up. There's so much more I'd like to learn from you. As he stepped back, ready to leave their uncharted conversations for now, Zoe's voice called after him. Remember, Tom, beauty is a journey, not a destination. With those words echoing in his mind, Tom felt the anticipation simmer to a simmering boil inside him. He had cracked open a thin layer of understanding, but what loomed ahead was an expanse of truth he still had to traverse. Could he truly commit to embracing the multifaceted nature of beauty, especially as his own story unfolded? With newfound determination, he caught Lily's eye from across the cafe, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. The conversation with Zoe had sparked more than curiosity, it had ignited a profound hunger to engage in the world fully, to confront what beauty meant to him on a personal level. But even as resolve solidified within him, doubts flickered in the back of his mind. What further revelations awaited him? What other truths would shatter or reshape his perception of himself? As he navigated through the crowded cafe, he felt the weight of his next steps looming ahead. He was about to redefine not just how he viewed others, but how he viewed himself. And with that realization, a new energy coursed through him. The adventure was only beginning. Would he have the courage to uncover the next story his own? The cafe's bustling crowd faded into the background as Tom stepped outside, air filled with a cool breeze that seemed to cleanse the weight of his thoughts. The sunlight glinted off the pavement, casting a mosaic of light and shadow. It was as if the world was inviting him to rediscover the layers of beauty hidden in the mundane. He leaned against a lamppost, Zoe's words still swirling in his mind. Awareness washed over him with each breath he took, acceptance, resilience, and the intricate nature of stories. The idea that beauty isn't confined to physical appearances but includes experiences, growth, and narratives began to reshape his view of life around him. Tom resumed his stroll, each person he passed now a potential storyteller. What struggles were they enduring behind their smiles? What moments of triumph shaped them into who they are today? He felt a stirring urgency for deeper engagement, not just with others but within himself. What stories lay in his own heart? He had crafted a narrative of success built on a LA corporate ladder, yet the previously prized title of CEO now felt hollow against the backdrop of his evolving awareness. What had it cost him? Was he truly pursuing beauty or merely masking insecurities with polished accomplishments? The tension simmered as he walked into his office building, a grand structure marked by glass and steel, a monument to a different kind of beauty. But now, each detail felt charged with a new energy as he wondered how often he dismissed the humanity in his colleagues, diverting conversations away from anything beyond the business at hand. Once inside, an array of emails awaited him, messages filled with budgets and projections. However, Tom's focus was drawn to the luminous lunchroom where laughter echoed, a sharp contrast to the serious discussions that usually filled the conference room. He felt an inkling of curiosity mingle with his fear. Would he dare to break free from the chains of professionalism to explore the depth of his team's lives? Tom cleared his throat, an impulsive decision brewing in his mind. Hey, everyone! He called out, the sound reshaping the familiar environment. Colleagues turned to him, eyebrows raised, surprised by his intrusion into their casual banter. Let us take a moment to share something personal. Tell me what essay story that has shaped who you are. Silence enveloped the room, skepticism swimming in the air. It was a bold move that caught many off guard. But something shifted, curiosity replaced doubt as they exchanged glances. One by one, they began to share fragments of their lives' small victories, crushing defeats, and unexpected journeys. As he listened, Tom felt a surge of connection, a patchwork quilt of experiences emerging before him. Each voice added texture and depth, each story carried a piece of beauty that illuminated his own fears about vulnerability. In opening his heart, he found solace, threading the lines of his own narrative with those of others. Every share chipped away at his previous understandings, exposing hidden facets of himself. The CEO facade faded, revealing a man yearning to learn, to transform. Yet a lingering question danced in the background: how far-reaching would this newfound openness extend? After the lunchroom session, his thoughts lingered on the idea of acceptance Zoe had emphasized. Would his colleagues embrace this change? How would they react to him as he demonstrated a vulnerability that was foreign to his role? Perhaps the real beauty lay in the potential for growth through their shared experiences, an organic growth that could cultivate vulnerability and strength within the workplace. But doubt still lurked. What if it exposed too many insecurities and damaged the professional relationships he had built? As he sat back at his desk, fingers hovering above the keyboard, Tom grappled with an impulse. Should he reach out to Zoe for more insights on embracing life's complexities? Or should he forge on alone, testing the waters of self-exploration with his team? He leaned in closer, driven by a surge of adrenaline. The moment of action was upon him. Every decision felt like a stepping stone into uncharted territory. But before he could settle back into busy routine, a ping from his phone echoed through the silence, drawing his attention. A message awaited him, an invitation to reconnect with Zoe to discuss the potential stories yet untold. He hesitated, yet the thrill of pursuing this path was undeniable. Would he step into the unknown, embracing both the fear and the beauty of what lay ahead? Tom inhaled deeply, knowing the journey was far from complete. The next wave of exploration beckoned, holding the promise of truths that may reshape everything he thought he knew about himself. The ringing of Tom's phone lingered in the air, palpable against the weight of his uncertainty. He leaned back in his chair, eyes glued to the message, and felt the walls of his pristine office close in. The invitation from Zoe felt heavy, an anchor of potential change that both thrilled and terrified him. He glanced at the time, weighing the decision against the steady demands of his role as CEO. In the quiet of that moment, a knot twisted in his stomach. Was he really prepared to peel back the layers, to delve further into the depths of vulnerability? The echoes of laughter from the lunchroom haunted him. They were reminders of a connection he had long ignored. That afternoon, he had felt alive, but now doubts clawed at him. What if opening up only led to chaos in his meticulously engineered life? Still, the thrill of transformation tugged at his spirit. It was more than an invitation, it was a call to a world he hadn't dared to explore. Tom took a deep breath, fingers hovering uncertainly above the screen. He envisioned his colleagues, their faces brightening as they reclaimed pieces of themselves through shared stories. Wasn't this what Zoe had invited him to experience, not just as a facilitator, but as a participant? He pushed aside his apprehension, fingers dancing across the screen as he drafted a response, confirming his meeting with Zoe. His heart raced, not from fear but from a rush of excitement. They could discuss not only his own insights but how he could cultivate an atmosphere where vulnerability thrived within his company. As he hit send, a resolve sharpened in him. He could initiate a revolution in the workplace, transforming it into a sanctuary of authentic connection. Yet even this vibrant possibility bore the weight of responsibility. He had to navigate the delicate balance between leadership and genuineness. Would his colleagues see this as a betrayal of the professional image he had long upheld? The next day, the air shimmered with anticipation as Tom entered the cafe again, where he and Zoe had first connected over concepts of beauty and identity. He found her in a corner, a bright smile illuminating her face, and for a moment, it felt like they were the only two people in a crowded room. Tom. I'm glad you came, she said, enthusiasm radiating from her. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, painting vibrant strokes on a canvas of ideas where personal and professional collided. Zoe spoke about her work with individuals learning to embrace their scars, both physical and emotional, and it struck a chord deep within him. Imagine, Zoe proposed, creating workshops where stories are exchanged, where your colleagues can freely share the challenges they've faced. It doesn't matter how big or small. What matters is the connection formed through shared experience. Her words sparked a fire in Tom. He envisioned more than just lunchtime shares. He saw a framework for growth, a series of guided sessions where vulnerability wasn't just encouraged, but celebrated. He could already feel the potential for deeper relationships taking form, a network of support weaving through the corporate structure. But as the conversation deepened, a stark realization washed over him. Could he truly lead this change, knowing he was still struggling with his own vulnerabilities? Did he possess the strength required to not only share his own story but to foster a culture that embraced authenticity? The thrill of the journey began to transform into a challenge. As the conversation brought forth rich ideas, Tom felt a tension building within him, an urgency to act but a fear of exposure lingering just beneath the surface. Hours later, the sun dipped low, spilling shadows across the cafe's backdrop, mirroring the uncertainty still looming within him. To bring his vision to life would require more than just intent, it demanded courage and a willingness to expose himself. What if those he led saw his efforts as a weakness? What if they doubted his capability to juggle both authenticity and authority? Tom left the cafe with renewed determination but also a burden of doubt. As he stood at the crossroad between familiar authority and uncharted vulnerability, he understood that these insecurities could either hinder him or propel him into the life he craved, a life rich with candor and connection. He stepped out into the evening, the world spinning around him, each twist and turn a potential discovery, a challenge to confront. The moment had arrived to make a choice, to gauge whether he would embrace the messiness of human connection or retreat into the safety of corporate norms. And as the weight of this realization settled in, a chilling thought gripped him. What if the very stories he wished to cultivate were the ones he feared sharing the most? The days that followed his meeting with Zoe were imbued with an electrifying tension. Tom sat in his office, pages of ideas cluttering his desk, remnants of the dynamic exchange they had shared. Yet, flickering beneath his focus was the growing anxiety of exposure, the fear of wrestling with silk-wrapped truths he had kept hidden for years. During a team meeting, a casual conversation among colleagues suddenly turned the spotlight on him. "Tom, what do you think about vulnerability in leadership?" a junior associate asked, her curiosity shining through her question. The room quieted, all eyes awaiting his response. Tom's heart raced as he grappled with feelings of intimidation and the instinct to deflect, to present himself as the confident CEO everyone expected him to be. Instead, something primal stirred within him, urging him to reframe the narrative. "I think vulnerability is often mistaken for weakness," he started, his voice trembling just slightly. "But it's actually an opportunity for deeper connections." The moment he spoke those words, a wave of unexpected relief washed over him. He felt momentarily untethered, a step away from the rigid structures that usually held him in place. Tom sensed the collective breath in the room release, a subtle shift in energy as his colleagues leaned in, intrigued. He continued, sharing a story from his early career, a time when he faced significant setbacks that shaped his approach to leadership. "We are molded not only by our achievements but by our struggles too," he asserted, a conviction taking root in his tone. Little did he know, the enthusiasm in the room shifted from mere curiosity to genuine engagement. As he wrapped up, he caught a glimpse of astonishment mixed with clarity on several faces. One colleague even nodded slowly as if a personal realization was dawning. Encouraged, Tom felt himself stepping further into the dangerous yet exhilarating territory of vulnerability. Seeing their reactions fueled the idea that perhaps authenticity could indeed form the bedrock of a more cohesive team. Emboldened by the response, Tom initiated a follow-up lunch session, echoing Zoe's concept of storytelling. He sent an email to his team, proposing a roundtable gathering centered on sharing personal insights. "No titles, just stories," he wrote, a sharp longing for genuine connection lighting a fire in his words. Days began to blur into each other, each moment threaded with anticipation. Yet, with each ounce of enthusiasm came reverberating doubt. As the proposed lunch approached, he found himself questioning whether he could fully commit. What if he unveiled layers of his past that others would see as weak? On the day of the session, he arrived early, gripping a steaming cup of coffee while the buzz of conversation around him intensified. He scanned the room, piece by piece, realizing each of these individuals brought their own stories and struggles into this shared space. As the first colleague opened up about her experiences overcoming personal and professional obstacles, Tom felt the walls of his own fears begin to shake. The truth hung like a delicate thread in the air. Still, when it came time for him to speak, he hesitated, a sheer curtain of anxiety drawing across his mind. Recognizing the familiar niggle of doubt, he breathed deep, grounding himself in the moment. This was about connection, not perfection. He shared an anecdote of an unexpected encounter years ago, a day that cemented for him the idea of beauty being found not within perfection, but in resilience. As he talked, Tom didn't just present a story, he revealed pieces of his own self. Each word stained with vulnerability painted a picture of authenticity, transforming the room into a sanctuary. Laughter, tears, and thoughtful silence flowed as his colleagues reciprocated, unveiling their own intricacies. Finally, as the lunch rounded to a close, Tom sensed the real shift that had occurred. They hadn't simply shared stories, they had dismantled the facades of professionalism, creating a tapestry woven with trust. Yet as he left the meeting, a persistent thought echoed painfully in his mind. What if his courage inspired others, yet left him exposed in ways he hadn't anticipated? Would he feel the same warmth from connection when the dust settled, or would it reveal a more daunting vulnerability he wasn't ready to confront? The question lingered, pulling him back into a space of introspection. As he navigated through the bustling city streets, he sought the answer hidden within himself, unaware of how the next encounter, unplanned and unforeseen, was about to challenge every notion he had about strength, beauty, and the essence of true connection. Days turned into weeks, and while the initial thrill of vulnerability paraded itself boldly at the forefront of Tom's mind, the reality of embracing authentic connection now felt mundane, a remnant of heady possibility dulled by the routine of daily commitments. His team had responded positively to his initiatives, yet shadows began inching their way back into Tom's consciousness, the nagging hint of self-doubt resurfacing when he least expected it. One evening, while walking home through the city's flickering neon lights, Tom found himself reflecting on the lunch sessions and the cascade of stories that had emerged, both painful and inspiring. They revealed layers of depth he hadn't anticipated. Yet one question lay tangled in his mind like vines: was he prepared to maintain this honesty and transparency in the face of his own shortcomings? The fear of stumbling echoed in the back of his head as he entered his apartment, the echo of heels on polished wood, a familiar sound that now felt empty. The walls of his sanctuary, once so bolstered by accolades and success, seemed far more confining now, as if closing in on him. Against the backdrop of the city's hustle, he felt lost, a champion of vulnerability wading through a sea of uncertainty. His phone buzzed, pulling him from his thoughts. A message from Zoe popped up. "Hey Tom. Are you free this week? I have some exciting ideas about collaboration." With enthusiasm coursing through him, he replied affirmatively. The brief moment sparked hope, a reminder of everything they'd envisioned together, the stories that could redefine beauty, narratives bursting at the seams, yearning for authenticity. When the day finally came to meet Zoe, Tom felt layers of anticipation and anxiety entwined as he walked into the cafe once more. From across the space, he spotted her, a familiar face, exuding warmth with the buoyancy of someone eager for what was possible. "Tom. So good to see you," she greeted, her energy infectious. They embraced, and he, for the first time in weeks, felt a flicker of unguarded excitement in his chest. "I have a vision," Zoe started, diving right in. "A collection, a series of portraits that embody beauty in all its forms, characters stripped of societal judgment. I want to tell stories that resonate, to create an exhibit that captures raw life." Tom's interest peaked, but so did that old itch of uncertainty. Are we ready for that? The real world may not embrace this notion of beauty as we envision it, he voiced hesitantly. Perhaps that's where the beauty lies, Zoe countered, leaning forward earnestly. If we approach it with authenticity, taking on the shadows, our intent will shine through. Her conviction reignited his hunger for growth. That night, as they brainstormed ideas, each thought exchanged felt like a brushstroke. They were painting the vision of something indefinably exquisitely beautiful, rooted in truth. Driving home, Tom realized he couldn't just be an observer in this journey. To truly embrace the project, he needed to lead by example and confront the unflattering truths of his own life. How incredibly transformative it would be to bring that version of himself to light alongside the stories of others. Inspired, Tom reached out to his team once more, proposing a workshop to help him confront his own narrative. It was no longer just about them sharing their stories, it was about mutually cultivating strength and connection. He would facilitate a session where everyone faced their insecurities together, exposing the imperfections beneath their facades. The day of the workshop arrived, and as Tom stood before his colleagues, he felt a weight pressing against his chest, more profound than any corporate meeting he had ever led. He shared his journey of grappling with vulnerability, the uncomfortable truth of navigating the fine line between authority and genuine connection. "I've always been driven by success," he admitted, letting the words hang heavily in the air. "But I'm learning that true beauty also resides in our battles, our scars, the paths we tread to reach any level of transformation." The collective silence was almost palpable, and for the first time, Tom witnessed several pairs of eyes tear up. In that moment, he didn't just see vulnerability, he saw the capacity for connection, building an invisible bridge between them. In his willingness to expose himself, the hesitance of others began to melt away like ice in the warmth of sunlight, giving them permission to let their burdens breathe. When the session concluded, he was met not only with applause but sincere compassion, appreciation that enriched the atmosphere, fueling Tom's growing urge for deeper topics. The realization washed over him like a refreshing tide: this was true leadership, creating a realm where vulnerability thrived, where beauty took on the essence of resilience rather than surface-level constructs. As the last members of the team departed, leaving behind remnants of shared stories and laughter, the burden once heavy on Tom's heart began to dissipate. Each exchange marked growth, not just in him, but resonating through the fabric of their corporate culture, a change that echoed in authenticity. Weeks later, Tom stood by Zoe's side, launching their exhibit showcasing the myriad reflections of beauty. Faces of strength, grace, adversity, and acceptance adorned the walls, stirring the hearts of everyone present. "This is it," Tom exclaimed, surveying their hard work manifested visibly. The project told stories beyond conventional beauty, instilling confidence in those featured while reflecting the heart of a transformed leader. He recognized that his journey wasn't just about personal success or accolades, it was about the evolution of his own narrative, embracing his struggles and owning his imperfections. As the evening unfolded, applause resonated through the gallery amidst swirling laughter and tears, investing Tom with an unprecedented sense of fulfillment and achievement that echoed deeper than surface-level acclaim. His evolution would not just inspire others, it would challenge them, harnessing the strength of authenticity to redefine beauty, for all of them. Reflecting on his journey thus far, Tom understood the truth now: it was never just about the destination but rather the entirety of the journey itself. He finally felt his place in a world that was vibrantly rich, woven from the threads of countless stories waiting to be shared. And with that realization, a wave of profound satisfaction surged through him. He stepped confidently onto the path ahead, ready to dive deeper into the unspoken narratives of humanity that awaited exploration. This was more than a simple journey, it was his life now intertwined with growth, beauty, and unyielding authenticity. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire personal growth and connection. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help bring more powerful narratives to those in need of transformation. Comment your reactions, thoughts, and theories about this ending. Let us spark a discussion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and embrace their own journeys of authenticity. Don't wait even one more second to support and uplift those around you.